Bigger isn't always better. Let me show you the difference between Key Light Mini, Key Light Air, and OG Key Lights in the most classic of settings, a colourful streaming room. First, we'll start with two Key Light Minis. The Key Light Minis are super compact at only 300 grams, a fantastic option if you're someone who also wants your lights to be portable. I personally love the more cozy vibe to this lighting setup. I think it'd be perfect for someone with maybe a darker aesthetic, as the light doesn't spill too much beyond the subject. The Key Light Mini is also the only light in this lineup with both on-device controls and a built-in battery. This is what both Key Light Minis look like at 100%. So they may be small, but they definitely put out a lot of light. This setting is what I would consider to be the ideal situation for the two Key Light Minis. So my left one is on 80%, my right one is on 50%. So you've got a bit of headroom both ways if you want to make it brighter or darker, but I think this is probably the softest, most flattering light with these two. Next up, we'll take a look at two Key Light Airs. This is what I currently use in my setup as they are quite close to me and I want to keep the lighting pretty tight. The Key Light Airs are a little over 2 times as big as the Key Light Minis, and they do come with a custom mount and a freestanding base. But of course, all of Elgato Key Lights are compatible with multi-mount. As you can see, I have a lot of colored lighting in the background of my setup, and what I really like about the Key Light Airs is that they still allow me to have soft lighting on my skin, but they don't spill out too much into the background, diluting all of that color. If we compare side to side the Key Light Minis versus now the Key Light Airs, you may notice that the Key Light Minis, because they are a smaller panel, they had to be a little brighter, which meant the lighting was a bit more harsh. Whereas the Key Light Airs that you're seeing right now are providing much softer lighting, and in my opinion, a little more flattering. But the lighting is still relatively tight, so we're not losing too much of that color. And these Key Light Airs are barely breaking a sweat. My left one is on 35% and my right one is on 23%. So there is so much leeway with brightness. And just for your reference, this is both Key Light Airs at 100%. They are low-key kind of blinding me right now. At this range, you would never need them to be this bright, but just for your reference. Having played around with all of Elgato's lights, I personally think that the Key Light Airs provide probably the most ideal lighting for this setup according to the aesthetic that I'm going for. And finally, we'll take a look at the large OG Key Lights. These panels are the biggest and brightest available, and in this close environment, they're barely on. This one is on 15%, this one is on 10%, and if we compare it to the Key Light Mini, you can see the Key Light Mini is quite harsh now that we're side by side. You can see the shadow of the microphone on my chest, the shadow of my nose, whereas in this situation, there's virtually no shadows. So I would say this is probably the most flattering for skin to look its softest, but the trade-off is that it is going to be spilling out a bit more on the background. I love a bit of drama when it comes to my lighting, so I think that's why I gravitate towards the Key Light Airs, having that nice in between of relatively soft lighting on myself, but also having that color in the background. And if I want to have a bit more dramatic lighting, I can turn one side down a little. But if you're watching this and you just want something that is the most even on your skin, I would say probably the big Key Lights. Due to the large panel size of these, you will get a bit of spill on the background, but that doesn't have to be a negative. If you want your background lit up and you don't have any other external lights, it could be a good thing. Just to show you another example of how soft the lighting is from these lights, this is now on 25% on both sides. You're still not really getting a huge shadow on my chest from the microphone or getting a little bit more of my nose shadow from either side, but it is still very soft. And if you would like to have a replica of the literal sun in your office, then here is both Key Lights on 100%. Obviously, you would mess around with some of your camera settings to offset just how bright these things are, but just for reference, with nothing else changed, this is both OG Key Lights 100%. And you can see just how much that is lighting my background. If you are new to lighting as well, don't feel like you have to have both lights on the same brightness. You can play around with different values. You can have one side darker, one side lighter for that little bit of drama. Just have fun with it. Another thing to take into consideration when you're shopping for your Elgato Key Lights is your mounting solution. The best thing about the largest and brightest Key Lights is that they come with Master Mount L desk clamp, which is undeniably the best solution for a clean desk setup. All of the lights that I covered in this video can be connected and controlled in Control Center. And of course, that means controllable with Stream Deck, including the Stream Deck Plus dials. But I am very curious to hear what you think. Which light did you like the most? We had the Key Light Minis, which were a lot more direct, didn't do as much spill in the background, but definitely had more harsher shadows. And then we had the Key Light Airs, which were nice and in between. They're not too large, so you lose that color in the background, but they're not super direct and harsh. And last, we had our big, beautiful Key Lights, which are probably the softest on me as a subject, but do spill a bit out in the background and dilute that color. I definitely think there is a use case for every single light here. It's honestly just personal preference. It comes down to a few things like budget, the space requirements, the mounting solutions you'll need, and whether or not you need your lights to be portable. But I hope this video was helpful, and I would love to know down in the comments below which light is right for you.